suffering from the damage done by slavery and Jim Crow, but they still do not support cash reparations. The California Legislative Black Caucus has introduced a package of proposals for bills that do not include 1 penny of cash compensation, restitution, or repair. Governor Newsom and other lawmakers have distanced themselves from the concept of cash payments. While Newsom is right, cash alone will not repair our collective harm, the state's goofy legislative package ignoring monetary payments is disingenuous. California lawmakers need to step up and put a reparations bill for cash payments on the table. The issue of how it is funded, the timeline, or whether it impacts our current budget challenges can be addressed. But we must strike while the iron is hot, or the window of opportunity will pass us by. If you agree that it's time for our lawmakers to add a bill enacting cash payments to their lineup, call them at 916-319-3868 and say, if it doesn't include cash, it ain't reparations. That's 916-319-3868. Tell him Callie House sent you. From Bruce's Beach to the California Task Force, the Golden State is a trailblazer when it comes to reparations. The world is watching. We must rise to the historical moment and set a precedent for cash payments along with legislative remedies and policies addressing the systemic badges of slavery and Jim Crow. We must insist on measures significant enough to help close the racial wealth gap. California must stand for cash, and the time for reparations is now. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dominique DiPrima. We welcome your comments.
First things first.
Things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule. 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. This show is called First Things First, and my first thing, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the weekends, giving thanks, giving praise, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders. And let's do this. We have got so much to talk about. The way we do the show, for those who are new and those who just like to hear me say it, which apparently is a sizable number of you. Hour one, we look to the left coast, what's going on locally. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person or persons of interest. We get to a hot topic. And today we are going to be completing our series, Heroes of Women's History. So why is that completed? Well, it'll be the end of Women's History Month. Of course, I like to shine lights on Heroes of Women's History every day. We just don't call it that. We just do it. So just like Black History Month is every month around here, so is Women's History Month. That said, we'll be talking with Dr. Jones-Jolivet, Dr. Tabitha Jones-Jolivet, and she will be framing some of her heroes of Black History Month. This has been Women's History Month. It's been really an informative and fun series where we get to learn more about people we thought we knew and delve a little bit into some folks that are lesser known. So all that is coming up. You're always invited in. 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. Anytime. You're welcome to conversate, as we say, on the social media. It's KBLA 1580 on every platform. Mine is DiPrima Radio, DiPrima RIMA, and then radio. Please, like, subscribe, or dislike, argue back, all that. It's energy. I need energy. We're on YouTube every day, streaming at KBLA 1580. Please subscribe while you're there. And if you feel like clicking around, click on over to DiPrima Radio. It's also known as Dominique B. DiPrima. The B is for Baraka, people. And welcoming in my, he's a contributor now, so he is going to be here on the last Monday of the month. We'll get some insight about what's going on in his city, the city of Pasadena, and take a look at other issues. He's a journalist, contributor to the LA Progressive. He's got his own series called The Conversation Live. He does a film festival. Got a lot going on. James Farr, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. How are you?
I'm blessed.
I got that energy for you this morning.
Okay, energy is good. Yeah, we need energy. So, look, it is this weird time between where we're supposed to have a lull between elections, right?
Right.
Even though we're still counting votes. But by now, most of the winners are obvious in almost every single race. And you did Chris Holden, who we thought was maybe going to have a shot at LA County Supervisor. That did not pan out at all.
At all. Nope. Nowhere close to panning out. And I mean, obviously, it was a disappointment for many within the district. But it is at best difficult to unseat an incumbent, and especially an incumbent like Supervisor Katherine Barger, who, when you look at all of the name recognition that the incumbent has, I mean, their names are on buildings, on golf courses, and so forth. A lot of folks to overwhelmingly decide that they want her to continue on. But then I think that also pointed to the number of conservative and Republicans that showed up in this last primary season that really took her over the top.
Thank you, Adam Schiff. I mean, partly. Right? For doing all those ads for Mr. Garvey and making some Republicans go, oh, yeah, there is something important to vote for.
I mean, we saw that in our 41st Assembly District where a Republican, I mean, she did very, very well considering it was just a primary. So I think we're seeing that, as a trend throughout the state. And I think it's something California really needs to be concerned about.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know. I mean, we're still a super majority, but I think I've always said that this is a bipolar place, a tale of two states. We are red state, blue state in one state. And just because the population centers, the cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Oakland, have leaned very heavily blue, the center of the state has always been red. And then outlying areas like Orange County, which are sort of purplish reddish. It's always been, it's just that there's more people here in the cities.
There's certainly more people, but I mean, right here in LA County, right, when we get out into the 5th district, my neck of the woods, Pasadena, but even going a little bit further north into the Antelope Valley,
right,
some of the outlining areas of the district, Azusa, Claremont.
Right. I mean, so that's the thing about a bipolar state, right? If you're in a pocket or you're out in the country or you're in the OC, you could very well have local representation that is very conservative. They're still going to go to Sacramento and be wildly outnumbered, though.
Absolutely. But, I mean, like I said, when you step outside of this metro area, right, these urban areas, it looks like the rest of the country.
I mean, you're the one that wanted to live out there.
Well, hold on.
Ain't nobody tell you move out to Pasadena.
Let me clear that Pasadena is a beautiful city. It is not representative of the armpit of LA County some of the other areas.
It's Mindful Monday. We'll hear from Sahara Ali. She's based in Pasadena. Mm-hmm. I have lots of friends and colleagues there, but I'm just saying, if you go where conservatives be at, don't be shocked if you find conservative results.
Yeah, they don't wear flags in Pasadena, though. So,
no Confederate flags.
We don't see any Confederate flags.
Yeah, but you could still see those exit polls, though.
You know what? Yeah, in my district, I really found that out.
How'd you find that out?
I looked at the exit polls from the last election, and the particular area I lived in voted very heavily Republican.
Really?
Very heavily.
Okay, well, I'm going to pray for you. But, yeah, I mean, what you said about incumbents is true, but yet Chris Holden is an assembly member. He was an incumbent assembly member. He comes from a political family. His name is well known. His track record is quite good, but that didn't help him apparently in the fight for the Board of Supervisors. He didn't have a strong showing.
He didn't. And Dems across the board didn't necessarily have a strong showing. I mean, when you look at Lieutenant Falante Riddle in the assembly.
Oh, you're talking about in Pasadena.
Yes. Falante Riddle, who was in the assembly race, didn't fare well as well. And so.
Right. She's not as well known. And
she's not.
Now,
but I mean,
what happened in that race? She won't go to a runoff?
She will not go to a runoff.
It was an outright win for the Republican?
It was not an outright win. The Republican whose name has completely slipped my mind.
But it'll come back to you. Yeah.
And John Harabinian will go to a runoff. But back to the point about Chris. Yes, he comes from a legacy family, an institutional family.
Right. Nate Holden has got things named after him everywhere.
He was a city council member in Pasadena.
Yeah. He was a city council
mayor.
member for like 1,000 years because that was before the term limits.
Absolutely. And so one would have thought, that he would have done and fared much better. But again, when you get outside of Pasadena, it starts to look like the rest of the country. And Katherine Barger kind of looks like the rest of the country, and she's unapologetic.
And from what I understand, she's a very nice person.
Very nice.
However, she is the most conservative member of the LA County Board of Supervisors.
Absolutely. And she doesn't hide behind that, right?
No, she's unapologetically conservative. So if you want to get in the conversation, call me 800-920-1580 or call James. By coincidence, it's the same number, 800-920-1580. We are unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what politics is supposed to produce.
This election year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the place for politics. Unapologetically progressive politics. And we've got two of the best and brightest to help you cut through all the noise. Weekdays at 1 p.m., it's A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nicolai Corte. And at 4 p.m., it's Areva Martin in Real Time. He's the university professor and distinguished member of the White House Correspondents Association. She's a best-selling author and Harvard-trained civil rights lawyer. And they are both here every day to help guide you through all the this year, because you know it's going to get deep. Get your politics on weekday afternoons at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. with A More Perfect Union, hosted by Dr. Nicolai Corte and Areva Martin in Real Time, only on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? My...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams, too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8 calories.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, James Farr is in the building, and I do want to discuss some LA things, but while I have you here, we're going to cover Pasadena. You know we're going to do that. So the Pasadena City Council joined Richmond and a few other California cities in passing a resolution to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, I always thought that those resolutions were just theater, but I've heard from a couple of lawmakers that I really respect that no, that does make a difference because it puts pressure on state legislatures. It creates this feeling of momentum for, the White House and whatever when whole cities start passing resolutions. So Richmond was out really early on this. They got a lot of pushback. I think they passed a resolution back in October, but still contentious, right?
It's still contentious, and for some, some believe that city governments should not be involved in international affairs. Many cities like Pasadena and Richmond don't have a policy or by charter where they can't opine or get involved or have something to say. I'm not going to pick a side on whether or not the council should have done it, but over 700-800 people showed up last Monday night. I mean, they estimate, I think, around 450 to 500 people actually spoke during the public comment section. The meeting was so well attended that they had to move it over to the convention center to accommodate the size of the crowd, as well as additional security. And so folks passionately spoke out, and then there were others, including the former mayor, who is a director at the Pasadena Jewish Temple, who's not in favor of an actual council resolution. Some both Palestinian descent and Israeli descent were speaking for and against. So it really was kind of like this mashup of opinions, but overwhelmingly the public sentiment was for the city to issue some sort of resolution.
Now, why would you say you won't speak out on why the city should have done it? I mean, I think maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I've seen you calling for a ceasefire.
Well, you've seen me interview someone. I haven't opined personally about a ceasefire. And yes, I do think there needs to be a ceasefire. I can say that here today, but I hadn't said that previously. I hadn't said that.
I mean, I think I've said it about 3 million times.
4. But, I mean, there are times and I don't want to get into the otherism space, right? Like I don't want to offend anyone,
right.
and I want to choose my words carefully. But there are times when I see short-term solidarity on issues that I'm aligned with, and that energy comes and then it dissipates. And so and I'm not speaking about the people. I'm now speaking specifically about the council. They hardly say anything about issues that...
Well, yeah, but again, I mean, it's like I say in the reparations conversation, you got to strike while the iron is hot. They might not love you forever, but get the love while it's available. From a political standpoint, they call that political capital, right?
Well,
you got to use it while you have it.
They also call that a political concession. And
opportunism.
Yeah, that's how we got a police oversight commission, was through a 2020 election political theater mess.
Well... You could call it political theater. You could also call it the will of the people. People have to hit the streets. They do things. And, the ways that the elected officials respond, it's not always ideal, nor is it lasting. Many times we deal with the white lash, and then here we go again, or the, conservative lash, whatever you want to call it. But I think that's part of the game, and I don't know. I don't want to call it a game because people's lives are at stake, especially when you're talking about a ceasefire or no ceasefire. But I I don't know. I feel well, and I know that there are some journalists, and you tend to be more of a, traditional style of journalist. And by that, I mean, tending to take a more neutral tone, even though you write for the LA Progressive, tending to, and I'm also evidence-based. I'm not saying I'm not, but always tending to be, really highlighting your sources and stuff like that, which is great. So some folks that take that approach to writing do not ever want to opine, and that's why I asked you the question. If it was that, or if it was just you don't want to deal with ceasefire, because that is very, very, very controversial. It's like a third rail. A lot of the politicians have been hesitant to speak. People have lost their jobs, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, no doubt war is bad, right? And I'm not in favor of the actions on either side. But I also understand the history, right? And I understand what has been going on in that region for decades and even hundreds of years. So there are themes in my writing that you'll see. Obviously, I don't think anyone would confuse me as a police supporter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Probably
so
not.
there's some themes there, and there's some themes of critical lens on some of our electeds. It's there. It's just that in this particular space, I chose to stay neutral, not because I don't have an opinion. I just said the ceasefire should have begun back in October, right? But here we are, nearly 5-6 months later, and purportedly 40,000 Palestinians have lost their lives. The number of Israelis, significantly less than that, and there's no value over one versus the other to me. I think that war is just bad all around, and we're in a wartime economy. I mean, there's just so many things that are, to me, way more troubling, not than death, but way more troubling with this November election coming up. So,
yeah, I mean, that was on full display this weekend, and it's going to be an interesting day on that front as well. Before we swerve off into Donald Trump's monetary problems, which may be resolved with this Truth Social deal. We will go to Dee calling us from Long Beach. Good morning, Dee.
Good morning, Dominique. I hope this isn't too far off topic, but I want to talk about good privatization, which implies that there's bad.
Which is an oxymoron in most cases. Usually, privatization is good for profits and bad for humans.
Let's take an example like LAX, which creates a lot of crappy jobs. It's a deregulated industry, unlike the water department or the power department and whatnot.
Well, they also have unions, yeah.
At the airport? Yeah.
No, I was talking about LADWP, but then I just remembered the airport has unions too, and I don't know much about those jobs, if I'm being honest, but I have one.
I don't know if they're crappy.
There's one member of our KBLA delegation that's constantly in my DMs on Instagram talking about how bad the jobs at LAX are, but I have a friend that had one of those jobs and did pretty well. So I don't know. But why do you say they're crappy, Dee?
Because I've had one of those jobs. They told me I didn't have precise cognition to vacuum out an aircraft cabin, and at the time I was a full-time college student.
Okay, so your bottom line. I'm sorry, we kind of veered around a little bit. So you're saying privatization would be good for LAX because maybe the jobs wouldn't be so terrible?
I mean, you take the money and run. You get a 99-year lease by some leasing company that manages airports, and you put those resources into schools or whatever you have. That's how you raise the revenue.
But how does that help the jobs? I mean, if you privatize LAX, and many of those businesses in there are private businesses that are, giving crappy jobs, whether they're airlines or, vendors inside the airport. If the whole thing is privatized and if you get an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos buying it, those jobs are going to go probably the opposite direction, right, James?
Well, Brother D, if you can figure out how to get Southwest to move to the other terminals so the backup doesn't happen so much coming into the airport. That's where I think we need your expertise and your wit and intellect.
I like Southwest there because probably I fly.
I don't have
a
a problem flying
time.
Southwest, but it's in that first terminal, and it backs everything up. That's no fun when you got to get to Terminal 5, 7.
Yeah, right. When we're flying to Africa, it really sucks. Dee, but that's not what Dee was talking about, James.
I know. I mean, privatization, I don't know how that would work as the way that Dee is explaining it. I mean, like I said, most of the vendors and the businesses that are in there, as you said, Dominique, they're all private. You know, I don't know other than the government or governmental services.
Well, the airport itself, LA World Airports, that's the governing body over the whole airport. But all of those individual, businesses are private businesses, right?
Right. So I'm and many of them with benefits. So I'm not sure where it's such a crappy industry or place to work. Dee, those workers perform an essential service for the world.
Well, I think he's talking about wages and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wages and working conditions. And if I can piggyback on that and say...
You're going to have to piggyback after news, traffic, and sports because you're not going to make me go over, Dee, but you can hold that thought. We're talking with James Farr. I'm Dominique DiPrima. You can find James. James, what's your social real quick?
At James Farr Live across all socials.
At James Farr Live. News, traffic, and sports. Then more conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Thank you for joining us on a Monday. It's March 25th. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York City Mayor Eric Adams called off his trip to the U.S.-Mexico border over safety concerns. The African-American mayor was due to leave Saturday to visit the border in Texas to meet with humanitarian leaders, with a spokesperson for New York City Hall saying safety concerns at one of the cities are the reason for the pause. The visit came on the heels of New York City facing challenges with migrants in the city. Officials say 2 crew members on a Holland America cruise ship died on Friday. A spokesperson for the cruise line says the 2 died after an incident in an engineering space. The ship, which departed from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was at Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Turn your tax refund into a new ride at Nissan of Mission Hills and Gardena Nissan. Find a huge selection with over 1,000 vehicles in stock. Lease a new 2023 Rogue SV at $195 a month. Plus, lifetime oil changes on any new Nissan purchased there.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC and UCLA are back on the court tonight in the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Both are at home for second-round games. UCLA takes on Creighton, 5:30 tip-off on ESPN2. The winner advances to the Sweet 16 to face defending national champion LSU in the Albany Regional. USC and Juju Watkins play Kansas tonight. Another sellout crowd is expected at the Galen Center, 7 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. The winner advances to the Sweet 16 in the Portland Regional. Arizona is the only Pac-12 conference team left in the NCAA men's tournament. Arizona has a Sweet 16 matchup Thursday night against Clemson at Crypto.com. Crypto is the site of the West Regional Finals. The Clippers are expecting to have Russell Westbrook back for tonight's home game against Indiana. Westbrook missed the last 12 games with a broken left hand. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, we got a lot to cover in a short period of time. James Farr is here. You can find him at James Farr Live. You can find me at DiPrima Radio or KBLA 1580. D called and he was talking about good privatization, which I contend is an oxymoron. But D, I wanted to let you land.
The thing with Ronald Reagan is that I believe his strategy was to bankrupt and totally encumber the economy so that it would collapse and you'd have the privatization I speak of. Again, not all privatization is bad and not all privatization is good.
Can you give me an example of a good privatization that you've ever seen anywhere in the world?
Offhand, no.
Okay, so theoretically it's good. Got it.
Theoretically.
And you know what? I don't think that Reagan theory is so far-fetched. I think conservatives still try to do that. They look to undermine public schools. That's what the whole we were talking about, the charter schools. Right. Not just the charter school, not charter school, school choice. They try to undermine public good so that they can privatize things like schools.
Or prisons.
But see,
like with airlines, with airlines, fares have dropped. You see, it's not regulated anymore. If you're going to privatize, you need a union.
Okay, I don't know that they've dropped. We just booked some tickets and there was no dropping in that.
I mean, or dropped in comparison to what?
To the 70s.
Oh, to the 1970s. Okay, I wouldn't know about that. I didn't book tickets in the 70s, but I don't know about that because then you're at the whim of the company. I have a friend that works for the airlines and she's with Southwest. They have a very strong union. Mm-hmm. She's got great retirement, great benefits. But I have one of my friend's daughters that works for a different airline, Delta, and there's this not so good. You can kind of tell in the attitude of the folks that work in both of those airlines.
I guess you could. One of the pillars of trickle-down economics, which I don't necessarily agree with, if you imagine an upside-down teacup and you're moving from the right to the left, you reach a peak in which government revenues go down. We disagree on where that peak is, and whether cutting taxes increases government revenue. I think that's a very small stimulus effect, but it's not large. It's not huge.
Yeah. All right, Dee. Dee's kind of like the resident economist and also one of our Republicans that listens, but a Republican that has ideas that many Republicans won't embrace, like universal health care.
Dee, you know what? You have such a different perspective. I'm sitting here just listening, right? Like, because I'm learning from him, and I think that's what makes the conversation so rich around here. Because the delegation, you never know who's going to call you, Dominique.
Folks be bringing it. That is true. Okay, so you're concerned about this State Farm story. They're saying they won't renew insurance policies for close to 70,000 people.
72,000. Let's not short the other 2,000.
Okay, 72,000. And this is a trend, right? Because a lot of these insurers will not cover homes that they think are in fire areas. And I imagine as the climate emergency continues to increase, we're going to see more and more of this.
Yeah, I mean, they're stating that it's outdated regulations that they're having to, in addition to being in an ability to pay these claims if they come, right? And, insurance companies have to have cash on hand. For every dollar that they insure, they have to have that.
And how do they not have cash on hand?
They have
Their
cash.
model is you're paying for nothing.
Nothing.
You're paying in case something happens.
Mm-hmm.
All they have to do is have pencil pushers.
Yeah.
I call BS. That's what companies do when they don't want regulation.
Right. And California does have some issues, obviously we're the largest state, and populous, and we have our forest fire seasons, but the fact that, when you think about the premium increases for folks that are having to find off-market insurance, for folks who are now required as a part of like maybe their lease or something for their apartment, that's 30,000, 32,000 people that they're not renewing. Those homeowners won't be able to renew their policy and stuff.
Right,
so
and it's going to be tough to get another one, I think, in this environment.
it is extremely difficult, right? I mean, now you go from what was locked in at one price, and now you're having to shop around, and
and I mean they're making the argument that we shouldn't regulate because look at what happened after Northridge earthquake. Now nobody wants to write earthquake insurance. I would go to the other extreme and say we need to socialize insurance, because insurance companies are really running our whole entire medical infrastructure. Mm-hmm. They're running who can afford to get a house, who can keep a house, who gets reimbursed for a house. I mean, look at the flooding here recently, right? Mm-hmm. After these heavy rains, these insurance companies aren't covering that.
It's an extremely profitable business. I know many people who work in that industry.
Crimea River. I mean, I you know what? These to me are areas that are essential, mm-hmm. right? Like housing, food, just like fire and education, which are socialized in this country. Our fire departments, our education, and our police forces are socialized.
Yeah, I mean, and insurance is the underwriting of our economy.
Right.
Nothing moves.
Right.
Without being insured.
So why is that in the hands of private industry?
Well, according to Brother D, it works out better with privatization.
Yeah, well, tell that to 72,000 Californians. I mean, it seems like what they're trying to do is strong arm the insurance commissioner in the state of California into giving them free rein so that we have the privilege of letting them profiteer off of us.
Absolutely. Well, they are the largest insurer in the state of California.
Yeah, and it's not just State Farm. I mean, other insurance companies have been saying, well, we're not going to insure people in this area. Too many fires. What?
I mean, we heard that story back in Katrina.
I have to pay you for nothing.
For nothing.
Every month, I pay. If I don't have an accident, I'm paying you for nothing.
Mind you, State Farm is amongst some of the highest rated in the insurance space.
Highest rated?
Rates, not rated.
Yeah, yes. Right. They're going to charge you.
They're going to charge you.
Right. So here's the thing. I mean, 99% of the time I'm paying you for nothing, and you're just putting that money away. If my house burns down or gets flooded, now you got to pay something for all the money you've been putting. Oh, but you don't want to do that. Oh, we might have to actually insure people, so we don't want to play.
Yeah.
What even is that?
It's you know what? It's a great hustle if you can get it.
Okay, State Farm and Allstate, excuse me. Too many names with states. Apparently stopped issuing insurance policies to new customers back in 2022.
Yeah, for homeowners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've even been advised to increase our insurance because of the new regulation changes that they're anticipating coming, and
increase it.
Our coverage.
Why?
You know what? At first, I thought it was because our broker just wanted us to pay more money, but he was alluding to that they're no longer going to be. So this is something that they've known internally for quite some time, that they were going to stop issuing policies to folks, and so to, I guess, better price us into better coverage now, as opposed to waiting till later if something happens.
Oh, and when it goes up.
Yes.
Oh, that's cheery. Randy from Watts, good morning. Randy?
Hey, how you guys? Hope you had a good weekend. Not only State Farms, but Infinity has closed the door on anything in the 900, whatever the number is. We've been dropped. But I wanted to talk about that the privatization of LAX. LAX moves more than just people. I'm on my way in there now to pick up another set of eyeballs for an operation. And we're TSA, we're independent, and it works out in our favor sometimes, but to unionize something like what we do now, oh my God. Do you realize it's bad enough to come in on somebody having a kidney operation, and they wait to the very last minute to fly them in here. And we have to sit there and wait till the plane lands, bring it over to us, run them to the hospital and go to the OR. Pays great, but that's the life that we're dealing with. Do you imagine if that was union, what would happen to those people? Oh, my God.
What do you mean?
Great topic.
Are you being...
Well, I mean,
I don't agree with that. I mean, are you saying union members do a worse job?
They do a worse job. I've been in trucking for all my life.
I don't know about that.
I mean,
bro.
I guess you'd have to be more specific, but my union, we do a great job. I think that is one of those stereotypes that people that like to bust unions like to put out there.
Well, I might be one of those types that bust unions.
I mean, I don't see the indictment though. Why would, if you were unionized, how does that affect you picking up A and taking it somewhere else? I'm confused.
Okay, now suppose you're on break, and this thing just comes in. We cannot go as to I can't pick that item up because I'm on break for 30 minutes. It's mandatory. When you're dealing with a person's life, when I've got a kidney
that's not how unions work. I mean, I know it maybe it is in certain unions. Have you ever been around IATSE, for example, and they're negotiating right now? Those, they're going to get paid if they come off break, but they're going to come off break. If they got to move the kidney, they're going to come off break.
And they're going to be compensated.
And they're going to be compensated
and that's going to be negotiated through collective bargaining.
I hope that happens, but in reality of transportation in Los Angeles for the last 5 decades.
What union have you been in? What union? Give me a specific. You're saying Teamsters?
Teamsters.
You're saying the Teamsters.
Okay.
Oh, Teamsters. You're saying the Teamsters can't deliver kidneys because they have to take a lunch break.
They won't even let them touch them. UPS.
They will let them touch them. They just don't want to pay that overtime. They don't want to pay the meal penalties. I mean, look, I'm in the Screen Actors Guild. If we have to come off our lunch, or we got to work long, or we have to bring our own costume, we get paid for that. That's not we can't do it. It's just you're going to have to come up with some more money. That's all that is. Yep. So if the producer doesn't want to pay the money, that's on the producer. That's not on the Teamster, the IATSE guy, or the SAG person. That's the producer trying to save a penny. We will continue this conversation and others. Randy called 800-920-1580. You can too. Dominique DiPrima and James Farr for KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Imagine with me here for a minute the most beautiful panoramic setting. Maybe it's an endless ocean, waves crashing on a beach, or a crystal clear mountain lake, peaceful and quiet. Or maybe it's just little kids playing in the park down the street. Wherever your imagination takes you, now imagine right smack in the middle of this perfect picture, a piece of litter. Just one piece right there in the middle of it all. Doesn't exactly fit, does it? In fact, even though it's just one piece, now it's all you can see. That one piece ruins everything. And that's the thing about litter. It doesn't take much to ruin everything. One thing's for sure, it simply does not belong anywhere in California. So here's the good news. If we work together, we will change it. We don't have to let litter, even just one piece, ruin your perfect picture. Not anymore, not ever again. Clean California, zero litter is the goal. Brought to you by Caltrans and CleanCA.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
James Farr is joining me from The Conversation Live and the LA Progressive. I just wanted to highlight this kind of series of situations. City of San Bernardino Friday announcing it paid $4 million for a wrongful death settlement for a man who the police said had a gun, like they always do, almost. Rob Marquise Adams was killed by police in San Bernardino. And then here in LA, we've got Jessie Murillo. The LA City Council approved a settlement on Tuesday last week, more than close to $24 million to the mother of Jessie Murillo, who was shot by police officers in a Canoga Park home back in 2017. And this is one of the highest payouts ever. This guy, even though the DA said the shooting was legal and the police commission said it was within policy. He had a pipe or something, and they said he had a machete. He was a Navy veteran.
Well, very rarely are any of the shootings ever found out of policy, right?
That's true. And
the commissions usually rubber stamp what the findings show. But the Rob Adams shooting out in San Bernardino this Thursday, I want to say, Attorney Ben Crump and Bradley Gage will be holding a press conference, and they have a reenactment video, which, from what I'm understanding, will shed a whole lot more light on the incident. We also know that two of the officers involved have a history of violence. One was, in fact, involved with a shooting of a 15-year-old a few years back. And so there seems to be a pattern here with officers, again, someone runs or someone doesn't immediately cooperate, whether there's a phone, a gun, or anything else involved, officers tend to go escalate to use of force and deadly force, against black and brown people at a much higher propensity than others.
It says that San Bernardino agreed to the settlement, recognizing the costs and attorney fees to take a civil rights case to trial. That's according to Stephen Rothens, who represented the city. And I wonder if you think, James, that we're seeing these verdicts come down, like, the Goon Squad, where those guys are getting, those cops in Mississippi getting long sentences, seeing some accountability.
Absolutely not. We were talking about insurance earlier, right? Mm-hmm. So you're talking about an actuary and a risk assessment, and someone actually counsel sitting down and saying, this case, and unfortunately, when we commoditize death like that, the average settlement is somewhere between $4 and $5 million, right? That's
okay. But in that risk assessment or cost benefit analysis of human suffering, isn't there the calculus that, well, the public is becoming more likely to convict, which means we're going to be more likely to be held liable? Is that part of that calculus?
No, because you're talking about civil versus criminal.
Right.
So the criminal part is up to the DA.
But if a criminal conviction, if a jury of peers convicts a cop, it's much more likely that civil settlement is going to go, that civil case is going to go the victim's family's way, right?
It certainly would indicate that it would go that way. But again, you're going back to, you got to split the hairs, civil versus criminal. If the DA charges the officer, we're really in a bad space, right?
Right.
Something is really problematic with this issue just to get there. That settlement, on the other hand, that is just a cursory practice of, let's get this off the books.
Ooh, and it's expensive. It's an expensive cursory practice, right?
It's insured.
You say that, but okay, and I don't have the article in front of me. I was reading an article last week about the enormous amount of money that the city of Los Angeles spends on police abuse and settlements, whether it be violence or workplace misconduct. I was shocked to see that the Department of Sanitation racks up a huge amount of money for lawsuits. Mm-hmm. Sanitation. And that those dollars don't come out of their budgets. They come out of the general
fund. Right.
So then what's the insurance doing?
Well, some cities are self-insured, right? And other smaller cities will have bonds.
Yeah, I say let's take it out those departments and see if they don't clean up that mess a little faster.
It absolutely should be taken out of those department budgets. But then you're going to have another issue where you're going to have those departments complaining about they can't do their job.
Right. Okay, fine. Let's do that. I want to see the LAPD hat in hand and explain to me why you're $100 million short. Oh, you wanted to be killing people? Now I sound like somebody's mama. Well, I am somebody's mama.
You are somebody's mama.
Oh, you thought that was a good idea? You wanted to kill people? Now you're going to pay for it.
You know what? And how some of these electeds sleep at night with the information that they learn in those closed session meetings, and then have to come to their constituents.
Now that's an interesting point, because that's all the stuff we don't hear.
That's the stuff we don't know about. That decision is made in a closed room when the attorneys representing the city, municipality, is saying, "Look, this is your exposure."
Can you imagine the decisions they would be making if we didn't have Black Lives Matter LA? If we didn't have, all of these organizations, Stop LAPD Spying, and then journalists like you, the decisions would probably look a little different.
Oh, they don't like people like me. They don't like people like you. They don't like Black Lives Matter, because we shine a light on those things that otherwise aren't seen. And it is because of the pressure. I mean, you look at what BLM grassroots is doing with, back in Mississippi with the Goon Squad, and the advocacy they're doing to eliminate qualified immunity and holding LAPD accountable. It does not make for popularity, but it is also necessary. But
popularity is relative.
Right.
Gregory Calloway's in the chat saying insurance companies owe big reparations, and that is true.
You ain't got no argument there.
Yeah, that's a great
I
point.
was going to get there. That, when you look at how we were, our ancestors were insured. commoditized.
And then Kwamel calls me Janet Jackson because I got on my Team Baraka hat. Okay,
I
Kwamel.
thought because she was in control.
Yeah, well, there's that. And Paul Lee is pointing out that the president of Boeing, Dave Calhoun, stepped down. Yeah, well, surprise, surprise. You can't have your planes falling apart in midair. And somebody's got to be the scapegoat. Now, the problem is if they keep falling apart after Calhoun has already left the building, I guess they can keep blaming him. Are you scared to fly? Do you think it's gotten less safe?
You know what? I'm not. I don't even worry about that. Right? Like after a certain altitude, it's over anyway, right?
I mean, the way I look at it is, if you put that in a percentage, it's probably such a tiny chance.
You know what? I'm still concerned about meeting officer friendly. I have a greater concern.
Well, yeah, and then when you start crunching these numbers, you're always more likely to die in a car. I mean, I don't mean to be grim on this Monday morning, but
walking while black is the most hazardous thing I can do.
Okay, well, I just stay prayed up. That's what I do. Paul Lee also says unions have many areas of opportunity for some, but the workers are in a much better situation. And Kwamel got jokes. We are a part of the Baraka Nation. He says we got to watch how right-wing people among us have become, and they say whacked out things. And I think he was referring to D, talking about unions. But remember, D identifies as a Republican who supports universal health care.
You know, he's a different one.
He's a KBLA Republican.
But shout out to the KBLA delegation. Yeah, and can I shout out some women real quick? Because it is Women's History Month.
Let's do it.
You know, Miss Molly Bell inboxed me and told me to be careful. You know, and I said, Miss Molly, with you and my mother praying for me, I'm all right. But I really want to raise up some women in media that I just have so much respect for. Sharon Kyle at the LA
Yes,
Progressive.
we love Sharon Kyle.
Dr. Melina Abdullah.
For sure, yes.
Ariva Martin.
What? Yes, my host. Not
colleague.
co-host.
She's not a co-host.
Yeah. Well, sometimes.
And then there's the queen. There's you, Dominique. And just
thank you. Where do people get that from? It occurred to me this morning it's because of
Money B
B
says it. I said it to you one day and you looked at me sideways. I'm like, it's in the song.
Now all of a sudden everybody's saying it. I'm like, where's this coming from? Oh yeah, Money B says it every morning.
And it's on the internet, so it has to be true.
It has to be true.
But you know, shout out to Brother Tavis and the entire KBLA team for, you know, there's a stack of women here.
Yep.
And those voices are what's needed. They're reasonable.
Oh, Kwamel said he was talking about Randy. Okay, we got to go, but thank you so much.
Okay.
But James, thank you so much. It's always fun when you come in.
I had a blast. And Dominique, if you can't save the world, don't mess it up today, all right?
Do my best. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us on a Monday. It's March 25th. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York City Mayor Eric Adams called off his trip to the U.S.-Mexico border over safety concerns. The African-American mayor was due to leave Saturday in the city. Officials say 2 crew members on a Holland American